Hello, School Transportation Nation. Excited you made it to the podcast this week. It's brought to you by TransFinder, the leader in school bus routing. We also have a great green tip from our friends at First Student. I have Miss Taylor Hannon with me live from the California Association of School Transportation's Managers Forum there in, was it Anaheim, Taylor? Is that where you're at?
Anaheim, Garden Grove, somewhere in that vicinity is me.
Orange County. Yeah, I know you're talking. We're going to be talking with Matt Thomas, who's the president of CASTO and also the current transportation director at Garden Grove Unified School District. So excited to see what's the haps there in California as you go to sessions the next couple of days.
Yeah, so I definitely apologize if you guys hear any background noise, but yeah, on site, live, very excited to be here. And Matt will kind of tell you in a little bit, but this is the first time. This is the management forum, so first time it's been in person in 3 years. So very exciting. It's very lively here. Everyone's excited to be in person.
Yeah, some big things going on in California, too. I know we saw some funding changes with the operational model from the state. California has a massive budget surplus, and they're looking for ways to spend it. And the good news is they're giving a little bit of money to the state of California transportation departments at schools. So that's really exciting. So I'm sure Matt will dive into that. And, you know, everybody is dealing with that driver shortage. So I'm sure lots talking about that. So very interesting. And then California is probably one of the most aggressive states in the nation around school bus electrification. So that's an interesting topic as well. So lots to take in, Taylor. I'm expecting lots of stories on stnonline.com next week.
You know, Tony, I'll do my best. But you mentioned the funding, and Tim Purvis is going to be talking about that during this conference. Our good friend Tim, he was in Reno and gave us some sessions there. So I'm really looking forward to it. It's been a great 3 days. So yeah, lots of fun, lots of good conversations.
Yeah, and I know Tim Purvis was the director of transportation for years out at Poway Unified in San Diego, and I think he's gone to the private sector of consulting. So I'm sure he's helping many a school district kind of weather the storm of all the bell changes they got going on, staffing issues, funding, EV is just there's a lot of action in California. So should be a really eventful conference there for you.
Oh, yeah. Good conversations on recruitment strategies, budgets, fleet maintenance. So it's kind of hitting all the topics. And then Matt will tell us, in a little later that their annual conference is also coming up in February. So lots going on here in California.
Excellent. Well, before we get to some of the news headlines, we got a special message from TransFinder about their quartet. That's 4 solutions that will keep your team singing from the same songbook and bring music to your ears. Route Finder Plus, the lightning fast browser-based routing solution that creates the safest and most efficient routes and bus stops. Stop Finder, the industry-leading parent app that shows where students are in real time. Wayfinder, the driver app that helps drivers and substitutes, and Viewfinder that helps allow authorized users to monitor the entire operation. These award-winning solutions work in harmony so you can get all your transportation needs covered. You can email them at getplus@transfinder.com or give them a call at 800-373-3609 and tell them you want to hear about that quartet. You'll be singing in no time. All right, Taylor. So I know the super hot story last week was about a school bus driver in Ohio that was segregating students. That got everybody up into a tizzy, but there was an investigation, and you want to share kind of what were the outcomes and results of that?
Yeah, so Stowe Monroe Falls City School District was under fire for one of their school bus drivers essentially sitting black and white students, one in the front of the bus and one in the back of the bus. And so that drew a lot of attention about segregation. As it turns out, there was no evidence that students were assigned seats based on their race. So the district does do assigned seating, and it was strictly behavioral. we have a story kind of talking more about that at stnonline.com, but it drew a lot of attention. I know Claudia just sent us a message here that it hit 2.5 thousand hits on our Wire report. So now we're almost at 1,000 hits as the latest news. So that's drawn some attention everywhere, Tony.
Yeah, and I know when I read that report, they said that they went to the cameras, right? The internal cameras to really review the video footage to see if there was an issue. And the video, once again, exonerates the driver of wrongdoing. So technology saves the day, because it would have been quite a black eye, I think, for a school bus industry to see that happening. And clearly the accusations that were being made by the mother of the child were unfounded. And, it was a very serious claim and it required an immediate response. So I'm really glad that the school district really acted quickly, addressed the situation, and exonerated the school bus driver. Gosh, they go through so much, and to be accused of something so heinous is really sad. So just a great outcome. But, it points a bright light at, just we got to be aware of these things. And it's a very sensitive topic for many out there, Taylor.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, Tony. Yeah, the district came back and said that the driver was following district policies and procedures. So like you said, really great to hear that the story ended positively.
Excellent. And I know there's some other things happening out there in the industry in terms of some of our Wire reports. What were some of those top headlines we saw from around the country last week?
Yeah, lots of things going on. I feel like our Wire reports are always leaning on like the negative side, so we probably need to push some positive news too. But a school bus driver died in Tennessee days after a school bus crash. A Michigan school bus driver actually rescued toddlers, so I take back what I said. We had a great positive story about two Michigan drivers who rescued a toddler who was actually stolen from a vehicle. So a toddler was inside a car, a driver came, stole the car while the mother was outside sending her other child on a school bus. And the communication between the two drivers actually led them to find the toddler on the side of the road. So I guess the driver that stole the vehicle realized he had a child in the back and just let him out. So yeah, really great news from school bus drivers there.
Excellent. I know I saw a story about a Maine student caught in school bus door, dragged down the road. So another story of student dragging. I know this has been a hot topic in the magazine as well. We had a story on, I think, was it the September issue, Taylor, on dragging, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, Tony, you're right. September issue, the story was called Seeking Safe Exits. And I think you said it was on page 22. So for those interested in reading that article, definitely go check it out. You can go stnonline.com, digital editions, and find September and read all about that article. New technology too. It's very interesting. I know we mentioned it a couple times in the article, just about the technology that's out there that can help prevent this. But essentially, it does fall on the school bus driver just to ensure that no one is getting caught in their doors.
Absolutely. Training is essential as well, because you don't want that headline for your school district that you're dragging students down the road. A big hot topic is safety, always top of mind. And all right, Taylor, exciting. I think Matt is joining us here. But before we get to that interview, we have a great green tip from First Student, the leader in student transportation. If you're one of the winners of the EPA's Clean School Bus Lottery, where will you start? Will you know if you have the right bus, battery for the geography and terrain that you're traversing? Do you know how to design your infrastructure? Have you talked with your public utility? First Student leads the way in school bus electrification with over 150 EVs deployed and more than 300 ordered. They have launched an EV consulting service to help school districts like you with assessments, partnering with utilities, total cost of ownership, and complete project management. You guys can learn more at electrification at firststudentinc.com. That's electrification at firststudentinc.com. All right, let's get to that interview with Matt Thomas.
All right. Hello, nation. I am on site at the CASTO conference, and I'm here with Matt Thomas. So he is the Transportation Director for Garden Grove Unified School District, as well as the California Association of School Transportation Officials President. So this is our first actual super live, kind of brought the equipment here. We troubleshooted a little bit, but it's going well. So I'm really excited to be here and to have Matt on with us and Tony as well.
Yeah, Matt, welcome to the podcast, man. We're glad you could join us, take a few minutes away from the conference, and really excited. So what's the buzz this year at the CASTO conference? What is everybody talking about? What are the hot topics this week?
So far we've had presentations on strategies in recruiting drivers due to the nationwide shortage of school bus drivers. There's topics today on overall transportation budgets, as well as just school district budgets in general. And then tomorrow we will have one of the big topics starting out is the new funding formula for school transportation in California, which just increased to 60% of operating cost.
And if I'm not mistaken, it was 10% before. So a 50% increase is a pretty sizable infusion of capital.
Yes, sir. CASTO specific has been fighting for full funding for years. We have an advocate that we pay, works out of Sacramento. And yeah, we feel that we'll get there eventually, working with the California Department of Education as well as other entities within the state.
And you said all operating costs. So that's including general and special ed transportation. And when does it kind of go into effect?
Correct. So starting the 2023 school year, it will be in effect, and it just will give us back 60% of what the overall operating cost is for each year.
And really, to quantify that, what does that equal for Garden Grove specifically?
So for Garden Grove, when I first spoke to my boss, which I will say we weren't super positive that it was going to pass, and then it actually passed, and of course we were happy. He told me that it was approximately $13 million for Garden Grove compared to what the approximate amount was before was approximately 10%. So we got a jump of about 10 million.
Do you have a sense of what the total impact monetarily is across the districts in California? What is a 50% increase across all transportation ops? What does that number really look like in terms of actual dollars annually into California school districts, transportation departments?
Well, it's millions, of course, but also, of course, every district does not have in-house transportation. They contract with contractors such as First Student Durham, but it's a very large amount. I believe the total that the governor proposed was $667 million, if I'm not mistaken. Don't have it right in front of me, but it's a lot. So it just depends on the size of each transportation department. I'll just throw out Magnolia School District in Orange County, which is in Anaheim. They only have a 9-bus operation, so it'll be a lot less for them. But it's a big amount no matter what way you look at it for each district.
And then when you compound together all the green initiatives that are going on within the state, obviously, you and I kind of chuckled a little bit last time we spoke about, full circle, you're back at Garden Grove where maybe you started driving a bus and it was CNG buses, and those same CNG buses were at Garden Grove 20 plus years later. Like, almost have to laugh, right? So school bus.
Yes. When I started at I actually started at Orange Unified, but when I went to Garden Grove in 2004, they were just implementing CNG, and they were the leader in Orange County with the most CNG buses. And we now have the infrastructure, and the most of our fleet is CNG. But when I started, there was still a lot of diesel, which has been reduced. But yes, the incentives now and the grants out there for new buses is amazing. I mean, I also know that the EPA grant, which is like a lottery system that's nationwide, started at $500 million, and the president of the United States just almost doubled it to $987 million. So money is out there to replace buses. We also have that to help us offset spending. So transportation's starting to be in a really good place in California.
And another big thing that California did was change bell times. And I think that went into effect this school year as well. So how has that been affecting Garden Grove and other school districts in California?
So Ironically, I left Anaheim Union High School District, which was just grades 7 through 12 in January, and came to Garden Grove. For Anaheim Union, it didn't really do much because they're 7 through 12. But at Garden Grove, we're working through the challenge, which is any K through 12 district has had the same challenges. It's affecting sports because now they're in school later. So getting them out of class is taking away from instruction. So we're having to think outside the box and come up with creative ways to be able to have drivers free to take sports at, 2:00 is what they want, but to be able to pick up and be taken to their destination. But we're having to do it at 1:30 because it's encroaching into the afternoon pickups for home to school. But overall, it seems to be working pretty good from what I've talked with other directors and supervisors up and down the state.
And overall, the vision of that was to just mitigate staffing shortages. Really, that was kind of the crux of it.
That, and it was mainly the high schools. They didn't want starting before 8:30 for the students. Testing and statistics have proven that they're better off starting later for their brains to function, is what we were told and what we've read.
Got it. And then have you talked to other members within CASTO about some of the challenges of shifting bell times, successes, failures, trials and tribulations of that process? Because I know a lot of people have done it, and some people go to multi-tier systems, 3-tier. Some people have moved into 4-tier systems because they're just trying to beg, borrow, and steal anywhere to kind of cover the driver shortage.
Absolutely. So you hit the nail on the head. Garden Grove was one that waited till the last possible school year because we had really 3 school years to implement this. And so I had the task of helping implement it when I got there. And so far it's working better than we expected. However, I was handed all the bell schedules just literally 2 weeks ago and told to try to come up with a more 2-tier system for elementary level so we can free drivers up to do exactly what I just said earlier, have drivers available to do the sports takes and what have you in the early afternoon. But talking with others, some are having difficulty and some, not so much. And it all falls down to just trying to find drivers to be behind the wheel and drive routes and sports.
Mm-hmm. So speaking of drivers, I know one of the things that you put out in your president's message for the fall is, of course, the school bus driver shortage. So how are California schools navigating that? I mean, not even with school bus drivers, but support staff. I know you put in your message that everyone's having to wear multiple hats. So what's that kind of look like across the state?
So it's a rhetorical circle. And what we're seeing is, for instance, Vista Unified up in San Diego, we've noticed that they've been offering a sign-on bonus to attract drivers. And their sign-on bonus has gone from $2,000 to $3,000, and now it's up to $5,000. They had a 7-hour guarantee listed, and now that's an 8-hour guarantee. So districts that are really desperate are starting to really realize they're going to have to pay a living wage and give them hours, because California's inflation, nationwide inflation, but California in general, the inflation's so high that how can anyone live on a 4 or 5 hour day? We have to think outside the box in recruiting. It's been tough. I will say, I'm not going to say it's perfect at Garden Grove specifically, but they've always offered a 7-hour guarantee. On top of it, the benefits are generous, and the retirement, of course, in California is amazing. And drivers tend to want to come to Garden Grove. Other districts, though, they're having to think ahead and really start trying to up their hourly guarantee, as I just said earlier, and then even sign on bonuses.
Are there any other large, I know we've seen a couple of V2G projects in San Diego pop up on our grid. Are you hearing from other members that are watching some of these kind of EV pilot programs and kind of taking notice and sharing that amongst members? What are kind of some of the takeaways that you guys are hearing internally? Because I know you and I talked about, okay, now all the funding has moved from CNG in the past, now going to electric, as you mentioned earlier. How are districts kind of looking to CASTO to kind of help guide them through this kind of process? It's just such an inflection point in the industry, and it's moving so fast.
like you just said, CNG, it seems like it's just fallen off the face of the planet. There's absolutely no incentive anymore. And CNG buses have just skyrocketed. Electric buses have also went up, but electric is the future and the incentives are great out there. V2G, I haven't heard much, but there's big hype on the electric overall. Some folks are not liking it. Some folks are taking it in stride, and I'm not going to say that I love it. However, the power and their technology, they continue to strive to improve each time. It seems like a new model is brought out the next year. So most are upset and have reservations because of the very low amount of mileage range that they're going to get out of an electric bus, especially districts that have travel much further. Rural districts are probably the biggest headache and complaints that we hear from members up and down the state. For me, electric's going to work great. We don't travel very far on our routes, and they can just stay around town. As far as going on field trips, seems to be also one of the biggest headaches for folks that have field trips that go 100 miles one way. It's just not going to work.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Matt. I know you got to get back since we are live at the School Transportation Business Management Forum here in Garden Grove. So I know you are in between sessions right now, taking time to speak with us. So we really appreciate that. But just wanted to thank you for being on the podcast. I know you guys have the annual conference coming up in February. So plug that if you have any words of wisdom to say about that upcoming conference.
Yep, absolutely. So yeah, we look forward to our 55th annual conference, February 25th through the 27th in Burbank. It's going to be our first in-person conference in 3 years, and we actually can't wait. And this is our first managers forum also in person. So we were really happy to get back and had a great turnout. So thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Matt.
Hey, great conversation, Matt. Really appreciate you jumping on, sharing a few minutes of your time with us and the busy schedule there at the CASTO Managers Forum. Taylor, thanks for your on-site reporting. Great job. Looking forward to some great stories there on stnonline.com later in the week. Special thanks to TransFinder and First Student for sponsoring this episode of the School Transportation Nation podcast. Guys, we love you. We appreciate you. Make sure and share the podcast, everybody in your network, get it out there, spread the good word, all the things we're doing. Can't wait to see you guys too. We're going to be doing a lot of live reporting. We have the NASDIPS conference coming up in Virginia near Washington, D.C. That's our next episode. We also have the Transporting Students with Disabilities conference coming up. Guys, if you didn't register, don't worry. You still can go on site. We're happy to have you. That's November 8th through the 13th down in Frisco, Texas. That's a North Dallas. So love to see you down there. Lots of special needs content in case you want to kind of pop out. We got record attendance, going to be more than 400 attendees, 70 exhibitors. Going to be a great time. Really look forward to seeing everybody. Remember, guys, stnpodcast.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to pods. We got you covered, nation. We love you. We'll see you next week.